Lothar Mentel, Chief Investment Officer at Octopus Investments, joins me now. Hi, Lothar.
Morning, Mark.
How taken aback have you been by the events, especially in the last 24 or so hours, but since last Friday when world markets did react, didn't they, to the events in Egypt?
It is unnerving. It is clearly rattling the stock markets. It's a little bit a continuation of what we had in 2010, so a continuation of those blow-ups that we have from time to time, and with the market still not really being in their old confidence, it does drive them more than you would expect, perhaps.
Is now the time to avoid risk assets? I mean, how should we plan our strategy in these very difficult, turbulent and uncertain times?
I think only if you're a very short-term investor. Otherwise, do embrace risk assets. We believe that 2011 is going to be a continuation, somewhat, as I said, of 2010, perhaps, though, with stronger returns, and we see 2011 being more the year of the developed markets rather than the emerging markets.
Because you've reduced your exposure to direct and indirect emerging market equities back to neutral, haven't you? And you've increased your weighting in the US and core European markets. Is that because they've lagged, or what was the reason for that?
Well, they have lagged because investors haven't quite given them the full valuation, because there was always the big concern about a massive double dip that's now receded, whereas the emerging markets were much more fairly valued already, because there's this prospect of growth and continuing growth. So we think this year is going to be the year of the catch-up.
What about the spillover, Lothar, into oil-producing countries? What happens if unrest does spill over to more Middle East nations? That affects the price of oil, pushes it up, and we know the knock-on economic effect. What are the dangers of that unfolding?
Commodities are one of the strong dynamics this year, which is a bit hard to foresee where it's going to go. We don't believe that the situation in Egypt will spread much across the region. It is, it was long overdue in Egypt, and while it's unnerving, it's also exciting to see that country go through the changes. And no, I don't think the oil price will explode as we saw 2 years ago.
I mean, we don't talk about the Egypt Stock Exchange every day, do we? Or the Oman, or the Qatar, or the Kuwaiti, or the Saudi Arabia stock market. I mean, how big a part, how an important part of our portfolio might and could they play?
Not that large, not in your global exposure. That's also why we're not overly unnerved. Yes, it is, it's a setback. We see it more as a buying opportunity, though, because as part of your portfolio, it's likely to be very small.
Lothar, thanks a lot. Lothar Mentel, there, CIO at Octopus Investment.